Hi, welcome to First Impressions, where we give our initial thoughts on video games, TV shows, films, and mostly comic books. My name is Carlina.
And I am Jaysen Headley. Today we're going to be reviewing comics for October 8th.
2014.
Aww. And as you guys know, our review system is out of a 5-star rating system. That's 2 stars for artwork, 2 stars for... numbers. 2 stars for writing, and 1 very special star if we think it deserves an extra bump up. We're going to start doing something a little bit differently with this week. We typically review our entire poll. Starting this week, we're going to review a select few so that we hopefully can give you a little bit shorter show that's a little bit more focused. But if you want to see our entire poll for the week, we will put it in the description down below. So, shall we get started?
Yeah!
Yeah! Alright, starting off the week is a big release from Marvel, Axis #1. What'd you think, Carl?
Well, let's see, I normally love Marvel event books. They're actually normally really, really decent. The thing about this book is that there's a lot of text, a lot of small panels, and a lot of crap going on that I just really don't care about. Maybe it's personal to me, but... Ooh! It smelled. Anyways, it has the Red Skull, and I really, really don't care for the Red Skull in general anyway. And so it's Red Skull Onslaught. Okay, a little bit better, but then he also has tentacle octopus arms, which is kind of weird. And like, where the hell does that come from? And then it actually has some really, really good ideas in there, but I was just bored. I just don't care. I don't care. So I gave it 2.5.
All right, 2.5. Next up is Batman number 35. This is start of Endgame. Very first issue of Endgame. I really, really like the art of this issue. I like seeing Greg Capullo. I can't say it. I like seeing Greg. We're on a first name basis now. I like seeing Greg draw, Wonder Woman and Superman and Aquaman. It's really great to see that. But story-wise, we see Batman seeing how he's going to be brought to death by all of these, and a little slow. I've typically said that Scott Snyder's first issues of any arc are pretty slow, and this one kind of follows that same.
Yeah,
tendency.
I just didn't care that, it was the Justice League being controlled again. Even though it was kind of like a dream thing, it's about like how Batman keeps thinking about all different ways that he'll be destroyed or something in his dreams or whatever. And yeah, it wasn't that great for me, but I did like the second half of the story. There's a second story, it's like a Joker's origin story.
Right.
Different artist, but I liked that part the most.
Cool. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 3. All right, next up.
Batgirl,
the new creative team for Batgirl. What'd you think?
Look at this thing. It's like, I think it's a really fresh take on Batgirl. It's that whole new indie type of cartoony / sensibilities where, she's in college. They talk about like who hooked up with who last night and social media crap, and so it's more about the characters. It's not so superhero-y. I think some people will love it. Some people might not like it. They might think it's boring because it's such a huge departure from what it used to be.
Very different.
But I think it's good to have something so different in this universe, in the whole Batman universe. And other than that, I feel like if they continue with a spoiler comic, spoiler can take over and be what Batgirl used to be. Or they could have just done the opposite, made spoiler more like this. But I liked it.
This is very similar to Stephanie Brown's Batgirl. I will say this, like you said, this represents something that DC Comics doesn't really have right now. It's super stylized. It's sort of like Batgirl meets Scott Pilgrim. The art is awesome. It's fantastic. The characters are really fun to read. It's a very diverse comic, which I like. The characters are extremely diverse, and it's not in typical, feels like it's being shoved down your throat diversity. It's just very natural. Very fun story, very great artwork. I can't wait to see more from this team. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 4.
Okay, I gave it a 5.
But I kind of wish that they kept that other character from Batgirl, the trans character.
Oh yeah, she did leave, but she might come back.
Yeah, I hope she does come back.
Yeah. So yeah, 5 and you give it 4. Perfect. Next up,
Birthright #1.
What?
Joshua Williamson.
A cool surprise this book was. What'd you think?
It's beautiful. It's awesome. I mean, it's there's a big twist in this book. I almost called it a movie because I wish it were a movie. I mean, at the end, Joshua talks about how he grew up watching Goonies and all that stuff, the Lost Boys, Monster Squad, all those like adventure books, Never Ending Story, and all that stuff. And I could totally see where it's coming from, and because it is an adventurous thing and it's very scary for the kid. Yet there's something really heavy that he also talks about in the end, is that it's all about family as well, and it is that heavy for me, and I like it a lot.
I love about this book that you can't tell what it's about by looking at the cover, because every page was such a surprise. The story kept going in really different directions. There's twist after twist. The story itself is kind of a big twist.
Yeah.
I have no idea what to expect from the second issue, and I love that. This is a really, really cool book. I gave it a 5.
I give it a 5 too. Great character designs.
Awesome.
Totally pulled in.
Awesome. We really liked it, so we can't wait for the next one. Next up.
Okay, Earth 2 World's End #1,
World's
a new
End.
weekly World's End stuff.
Because we need more weekly books.
You know what? This is, at first I thought this was really super ambitious because there's so much going on and the art's really great in it. It's really good. But then I realized, what it really is? It's just a recap from issue 1 to like 25, all in this one
Earth
book.
2.
So it was really a huge recap and setup for what's to come in World's End of, I guess, Earth 2 ending.
Right.
And
but it's a really good jumping on place if
Yeah,
you
it is.
haven't read any Earth 2 at all. You can start here and be completely caught up. And like you said, it is really gorgeous art. It's a great starting point for the book. I would say it's a much better starting point than either Future's End or Batman Eternal had. So that's really exciting.
And you can totally see where this is going to end up being like Future's End, because this is the previous to that.
Let's only hope it doesn't end up being like Future's End. What'd you give it?
I give it 4.
What?
I said 3.5/4, so I don't know what that means.
I gave it a 3. Cool.
I'll give it 3.5.
We'll see what happens next. All right, next up.
Punks, the comic.
Punks.
Y'all cop.
I read this. This is such a bizarre book. I don't even know how to describe it. It basically, if you watch things like Adventure Time or Regular Show, you're going to really like this book. It basically has I think it's 3 or 4 different little mini stories within it. It's really bizarre at first, it's really jarring, but then you start to kind of get the humor and it's really funny. There's nothing else like it on the market, and I really, really like that. A beautiful cover here that we have from Rob Guillory, which is one of my favorite artists. What can I say? If you're either going to love this book or hate it. I thought it was really funny. I loved it. I'd love to see more of it. I gave it a 4.
All right.
Cool. Next up.
Klarion the Witch Boy #1. Innocenti, new book. McCarthy on art. I loved the character designs. I saw the previews of it where they showed all the character designs. I'm like, oh, these characters look really cool. They're all young, hip, witch type of characters, and when you read this, it seems like it's in a different universe than the rest of the DC universe.
Yeah, it does.
So it's a different Earth or something, a multiverse, and hopefully they'll bring it in. But otherwise, in this world, almost everybody's like a witch or something, I think.
Yeah.
So they do introduce some of the characters, not all the characters that I've seen in designs, but I liked all the character elements more than everything else that was going on around it.
Right.
So I hope to see more of that, and I can see that they'll probably will. And like I said, the design work is great. Oh, and you mentioned in the paneling.
Yeah, paneling in
really
this book
great
is
in
really
this.
cool. The artwork definitely is the star here. The artwork, the paneling, all of it. The colors really set a great mood. The story's a little weak. I honestly didn't really care about any of the characters. I didn't care really what was going on in the story. There's so many books out there that are kind of similar to this right now. But the art is so freaking cool. And the panel, I complain about paneling a lot, so it's nice to see a book that really does some cool
I
stuff
don't
with
think
paneling.
there are a lot of books like this at all. But, I mean, another cool aspect about this is not only are they witches, but there's something that has to do with tech or something. It's like
Yeah, a little bit.
techno-witchy stuff, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like technology and witchcraft together.
Right. Cool, what'd you give it?
I gave it a... Wow, 3.5/4 again.
Oh, that's pretty good. I gave it a 2 because I didn't love the story, but I loved the artwork.
Great, 3.5.
Cool. Next up, October Faction, #1. What'd you
Yes,
think?
Niles. What's his face? Yes,
Steve Niles.
right. And the artist is Damian Warren. The art is great in this, and I think this is a good example of how story and art complement each other so much that it becomes a good book and a better book than it would be, one without the other. So I think story-wise and everything, you could say it's not so new. It's the same old supernatural type of stuff, and so that we see in so many other books. But because the art is so great, it just makes it work for me. It's like Squitter. Like the story in Squitter isn't very complicated, but the art and the story together is awesome. It's very classic. And then one thing that this brings on board with that whole genre is the family aspect that I really liked as well.
Cool. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 4.
Awesome. Next up, one of the
Wytches.
bigger Witches. One of the bigger releases of the week, Wytches by Scott Snyder. I'm gonna say the exact same thing I said about Batman. Scott Snyder's first issues never really blow my mind. This is a really cool book, and I'm really excited to see what happens next, and I'll definitely pick up the next issue. But the cliffhanger at the end was really weird. It didn't feel like a cliffhanger. It felt like we were missing the last page of the book. None of the concepts in this book so far are particularly original. In fact, one of the scenes, almost the exact same scene, was in another book we're going to review here in a couple minutes. So, all right, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. So I give it a 3.
Oh.
All right, next
we
up.
got Pirouette from Black Mask. We haven't been getting a lot of Black Mask books, but you see them around a lot, and they come out with all different kinds of stuff. And this is Mark L. Miller, and I think he might be the same guy who's been doing a lot of horror stuff recently, like with Clive Barker. And then we also got pencils and inks by Carlos Granda. And so the art is actually really, really good in this. I like the paneling, the character designs, and from the first page, it's really dramatic. And I read this in the same week that American Horror Story came out, and so it fit very well, Pirouette, because it's all like clowns and the circus, and it's a dark story, though it's not horror, like no one's killing anybody in it, but it's really dark and deep because it's about a girl who's growing up in the circus who's it's kind of like Cinderella, everyone hates on her and she feels really alone, and by the end it turns out that they're going to the town where they found her. So, there's like all this mystery and it's very dark, and I thought it was really good. I didn't know what to think of it, and I gave it a 4.
Awesome, 4. And next up we have Sabrina, number 1. I really love this writer a lot. He's the same guy who's doing Afterlife with Archie. This book was no different. He really has a way of pulling you into the world. He writes horror really well. Kind of reminds me a lot of Joe Hill and how just very classic and well done his horror writing is. I don't know, it's more of an origin story of Sabrina, so we kind of get to see where she starts. I think that's really exciting. The artwork is really cool. It fits the book perfectly. It's really creepy. It has, it kind of sets up the mythology of this world really well and really sets it up to be creepy and terrifying. And I liked it a lot. What'd you think?
I don't know what to say about this book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the funny book that it ever was or the comedy that it was in this show.
Right.
But it's the same type of story, or it's like comes from that. So I think the familiarity makes it actually better for me. But you can see how it's something a little bit more deep, and I just don't know what to think about it when I compare it to other books. But yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 4.5.
I gave it a 5. Really liked it. All right, so finally this week we had a chance at Comic-Con to pick up an early copy of James Tynion's new book
Memetic.
And Eric Donovan, Memetic or Memetic or however the frick we're supposed to say this. I've already said this a couple times about this book, but James Tynion, I got the chance to meet you, and I told you were becoming one of my favorite writers, and this book solidifies that. It is so freaking good. It goes from funny to terrifying so quickly. The world is set up so well. Stop that. And it's just such a relevant, cool idea that's very tongue-in-cheek, yet very scary at the same time. So well written, so well put together. Love that the characters are diverse. I love that the main character is gay. I love everything about it. I can't say enough good about this book. It's one of the best single issues of anything I have ever read in my entire comics career. I loved it. I gave it a 5.
Can't wait to read it.
Cool. All right, so those are our books for the week, but what was our book of the week? What was your book of the week?
My book of the week will have to be Birthright.
Birthright. All right. I gave mine to World's End. Nah, I'm just kidding. I gave it to Memetic because holy crap, it was so good.
I didn't read that.
All right, guys. Well, this past weekend, we did get a chance to go to New York Comic Con. We're wearing our Infinite Crisis shirts. If you're not playing Infinite Crisis, it's free to play. Why aren't you playing? It's free. It's free. It's an awesome game. We really like meeting with the creators.
Play with us.
We met
Join our team.
join our team, play with us. We also met with a lot of the creators, and thank you guys so much for
they were cool.
recognizing us. First of all, that was awesome.
And they listened to all of our
and listening to
comments.
us and just being super awesome. We met so many great people this weekend. We were like overwhelmed by the amount of awesome. It was probably my favorite New York Comic Con I've ever been to.
Yes, I agree.
And that's because of everyone that we met there. So that was awesome.
I agree.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I agree.
You agree. All right. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next week. We're also going to try and do some reviews of some TV shows hopefully soon. And we'll see you next time. Make sure to let us know what you think in the comments down below. Follow us on Twitter at @KukamungaCat, @K.C'arl K. Lee. You can also follow our blogs, and we'll put links to those as well if you want to keep up with us. And make sure, if we don't see you before next week, go see Revenge of the Green Dragons in theaters October 24th.
Oh, that's next Friday.
It stars Mr. K.C'arl Lee as Chicken Wing. It's going to be a romping good time. It's executive produced by Martin Scorsese himself. Go see the film.
Boy.
It is fantastic.
Boy. Oh, there's a special screening of it on next Tuesday at the Museum of Moving Images.
So
it's
if you're in
at
New
7
York,
p.m. and anyone can go. Get a ticket.
There are screenings in Boston, Philly, Washington, D.C.
The directors
everywhere.
will be there. The cast will be there.
Yep, so make sure you go see it, and we will see you next time on First Impressions.
Peekaboo, peekaboo, peekaboo.